Welcome to the Short Porch Podcast with your co-hosts JD Frieda and Jared Peterman. Let's get started. And welcome. Today is Tuesday, April 4th, and you are tuned in to the Short Porch Podcast, where even Rich Homie Quan can loop one into the seats in right field. I'm JD Frieda, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jared Peterman.
Yes, welcome in. We're coming off the Yankees' sixth straight opening day loss, as we all know by now. But we're just going to run through some things really quick that leads into the regular season. Then we're going to talk about the Yankees' rotation, the lineup, everything that happened in Game 1. Kind of just look at the week ahead, and we might even have a few quick segments for you today. So let's get started here.
And well, quickly before you get into it, Jared, we also may have a very highly respected broadcaster call into the program later, if we're lucky. But now that we've got that out of the way, Jared, why don't you bring up the first point of contention about this early Yankee season?
Yeah, so as we talked about on each of our podcasts previously, the big focus coming into the season was the rotation, and our question was who would get the fifth spot. Well, we're still waiting to find out. Girardi handed Luis Severino the fourth spot of the rotation, as we suspected he would, and since the Yankees have certain off days throughout these first 2 weeks, they don't need a fifth starter right now. So with that being said, Chad Green is pitching in Double-A right now, and Jordan Montgomery is pitching in Triple-A right now, and they're on the same pitching schedule, so either one of those guys will get the fifth spot. Luis Sessa's in the mix, but he's really just considered the long shot at this point.
Yeah, Sessa's kind of on the outside of the bubble when it comes to those two. Yeah, Green and, as you said, Green and Montgomery are both pitching on the same schedule in the minors right now, both kind of vying for that fifth and last rotational spot. And as you said, Severino getting that fourth spot, Girardi giving him the nod. Severino, as we talked about, didn't look so hot in the majority of the spring training season. However, in his last or second to last outing, he came in relief in one of the outings, and I think he pitched for 3 innings, and he looked really good in his last outing. And I heard a couple of the Yankees broadcasters kind of use the terminology that we used last time, like, "Oh, his stuff looks great." Like you kind of got to give him that spot.
Always.
So like it's such a cliche, but I mean, I guess from what they saw out of him as of recent, they gave him that last spot. But yeah, what do you think about the Montgomery Green situation? What would you like to play out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to depend on how they do at their respective levels, but I watched the first Jordan Montgomery start of the spring, and I read about the second one, and I'm pretty impressed by it. I think he struck out 8 in 4 1/3 in his first start. He has a fastball, slider, changeup, and he mixes in a little curve that isn't really developed yet. But I think Montgomery is in the prime spot to get this fifth spot right now when it comes time. He showed a lot in spring. He wasn't really even in the mix, and he kind of came on late. So I think I wouldn't mind seeing it go to him. We've obviously Green has the experience in the majors from last year, but I really liked what I saw from Montgomery. He's a big dude. He's lefty. I think he's like 6'6". Everything I read, he has late movement on pitches, and what I really took away from the few starts or outings I saw from him is like he has good command. So I think if you could pencil him in the fifth spot, give us another lefty in the rotation, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
So you're vying for the young gun to get that fifth rotational spot.
Yeah, I really am. I mean, I like Chad Green as well, but I think if Montgomery has a hot hand right now, I'd give it to him. Green's. I'm sure Green will be up later in the year, or both will be up later in the year, but I really like what I saw from Montgomery.
So now that we talked a little bit about the rotation, obviously Chad Green and Montgomery for that last spot in the rotation, that ever efficient Yankees rotation that we've seen in the past few years. But now we're going to talk a little bit about the infield dilemma that was kind of sprung about after the Didi Gregorius injury. And maybe not so shocking, but maybe shocking to a few people. Tyler Wade was left down, didn't make the opening day roster after a pretty good spring and kind of being a utility man. That there was a lot of talk about him, maybe moving around, being a kind of Swiss Army knife, if you will, playing all around the diamond, all around the field, and had a strong spring. Didn't make the final cut. What do you think about that, Jared?
Yeah, they gave the nod to Pete Kozma instead, and he got some action in the first game already, coming in for Torreyes, who's the starting shortstop right now. But one thing on Wade that I think we kind of overlooked when we were kind of vying for him to get the job out of camp, just because he's the young guy, and I think Yankees fans are in this position right now where we're not really worried about what Pete Kozma could do. We want to see the younger guys, but Tyler Wade hasn't played over Double-A before this year, so I think that was a big factor in their decision. He showed a good spring for sure, and he definitely opened up some eyes. But I think if the Yankees are trying to really stick to their plan of developing these guys, I think they made the right move probably in keeping Wade down, have a Kozma step in to start.
And I'm a huge fan of Kozma. I have no worries, no problems with Kozma being on the opening day roster. That's my guy. So Kozma on the opening day roster. Wade, obviously, they're giving him a little bit more time to develop. It was even a strong showing in the spring, as you said, hasn't played over Double-A level. I think it was a smart decision. And that kind of leads us into the end of the spring. There weren't really many other storylines that going into the regular season. The bullpen was kind of set.
Just that Greg Bird continued to kill the ball in spring training. I think he hit like 2 more home runs after the last episode. So the bullpen really, honestly, the only surprise maybe was Jonathan Holder making the roster, but he made the roster. He was on the roster late last year and showed promise, and he's a big strikeout guy. So I wasn't really surprised to see him on the roster, but I think when you only take 4 starters, I think that's when, people are a little surprised to see a Holder making the team out of camp.
Right. And, there always could be injuries mid to late season or any point of the season really to that bullpen, and it's only a matter of time till Nick Rumbelow gets the call back to the 40-man roster, But
it's funny. It's funny because we'll talk about the game, but obviously Tanaka only went 2 2/3, so the bullpen was already heavily taxed, and I could hear the Scranton train engine just rearing up for another reliever to come through this week sometime, but we'll see as the week goes on.
All right, so that kind of leads us to the first game of the season. The Yankees opened up their season not home but in Tampa on Sunday, opening up the season against the Rays. Tanaka, as Jared said, was on the mound, and Dree Archer on the mound for the Rays. Now,
Dree Archer? You mean Chris?
No, I mean Dree Archer. So before I get outed and made fun of on this podcast, I'm gonna come out and say it myself. I did not watch the Yankees season opener on Sunday, but I have very good reasoning. It's not actually a good reason.
It's really not a good reason at all.
It's not a good reason, but it's a reason nonetheless, and I have to say it because if not, then I'll just look like terrible and not a true Yankee fan. But I somehow scored Knicks. Now I understand for all you Knicks fans or people who know basketball, the Knicks are not very good, nor should anyone view them as a basketball team, especially at this juncture of the season. However, I scored Knicks tickets on the floor, and when I mean on the floor, I mean I legitimately was in the first row with my feet on the court. So Jared knows I kind of flip-flop back and forth. I wasn't going to go because I wanted to watch the Yankee game. I was going to go. I wasn't going to go. I ended up going. And if any of you Knicks fans go back and watch the highlights from the Knicks-Celtics game, you'll see me. I was representing, though, on opening day. I wore my Yankee cap, and I wore a Yogi Berra jersey. You'll see the number 8, basically the entire game in the first row. So that's all I have to say about that.
Basically, JD just wanted to go see Sasha Vujacic and Justin Holiday shoot 3 for 23 from the field instead of watching the Yankees. But honestly, the performance was about the same. As I mentioned, the Yanks lost their 6th straight opening day. game. So I have a question for you, JD.
I love that.
Can you name the last winning pitcher for the Yankees on opening day?
No. Can you give me the year?
In 2008, the last starter, not the last, relief pitcher, but starting pitcher. 2008.
2008. The last starter. I mean, is it gonna be the hefty lefty himself, or
It is Chin-Ming Wong.
Chen-Ming Wang, the ultimate
Yes.
ground ball pitcher? Oh
Somewhere
my
my
God.
brother is going crazy. The biggest Wong fan I know. And here's another fun little
Chen-Ming
fact
Wang,
for
wow.
yeah. Here's another fun stat for the Yankee starters now. Over the last 9 opening days, only Sabathia and Tanaka combined ERA of 8.20. So, not a pretty opening day, as Yankee fans have been accustomed to over the past many years.
So Wang was the opening day starter in 2008.
Yes.
Okay, so Sabathia was in 2009? Not
He didn't
winning,
get the,
but
he didn't get the win that day.
No, I know,
The
but I'm
start,
saying,
the last starter.
I'm saying, but was he the starter in 2009 for opening day?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that was off by a year. But yeah, Chen-Ming Wang. Wow, what a name drop. But yeah, so we talked about the Yankees. Obviously, didn't perform so well. Neither did the Knicks, but that's neither here nor there. They ended up losing to the Tampa Bay Rays. Evan Longoria ended up going deep. Shout out to my fantasy team. But so another kind of storyline that was going into the season was later on in spring training. There was talk that a certain outfielder for this bunch possibly could start the year in AAA. Jared,
Yes.
who am I alluding to?
The Aaron Judge.
The Judge.
The Aaron Judge. I don't know why Joe Girardi would ever mince those words, but sure enough, he came out and said it, caused a big uproar, and the next day he names him the starting right fielder. So, great move by Girardi. I saw something really funny on Twitter. Some random person, probably with an egg as their avatar, commented to Brian Hoke and said, "Let's send Greg Bird to Double-A and give Choi the job at first," and I just started laughing because that's really, if Judge was going to start in AAA, it would have been a joke. I understand he has to get reps, but there's no reason why Aaron Hicks should be starting over him in right field.
No possible way. And if Ji-Man Choi ever even touches the dirt in Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, I'm just gonna, I might cease to be a Yankee fan at that point because then all hope is lost. But yeah, Judge, obviously, Girardi came out and said he wasn't sure if Judge was going to make the roster, be the starting right fielder. There was obviously some hesitation stemming from last season's 179 average through 27 games. I think we said last week it was like 84 at bats. We said, but
and he had 50, and he struck out 50% of the time. So obviously that's all there. But he hit really well in the spring. I think he hit over 340. So I didn't really understand it. I mean, Hicks had a good spring too, but obviously there's really no case to be made right now for it.
Yeah, they both had a decent spring.
And it it's the first time since 1992 that none of the 8 fielders that took opening day were over 35 years old.
And that's saying something.
Exactly. That just proves that, Hicks isn't old, he's still pretty young, but
he's in the prime
Judge
of his
is
career.
the guy. Yeah, Judge is the guy. He's the guy for the future, he's the guy for now, and he played well.
Yeah,
Sunday.
He did play well Sunday. He had a really good at bat. It's kind of comparable to last season because through 27 games last year, as I said, he batted 179 and 84 at bats. Spring training this year, he played in 25 games and 63 at bats, so not as much, but definitely comparable. And he held a 333 average, with 3 homers and 7 RBIs. And he also drew 6 walks, which I think kind of goes under the radar sometimes. Yeah,
definitely. One thing I noticed, though, with the Rays, especially late in the game, they really shifted Judge. I mean, they had 3 infielders on the left side of second base, like not even up the middle over top of second base, but actually on the left side of second base. So, Judge, they're definitely expecting him to pull the ball, but, maybe as he develops more, he can, start hitting it the other way and beating the shift.
Yeah, they've already taken the big leg kick out of his game. Maybe they're going to try and incorporate smacking the ball to the right field, the right side of the diamond as well. But I guess that all comes in time.
Yeah. So basically, I just want to get into what kind of happened in Sunday's game a little bit. Give it like a little rundown. Tanaka, he only lasted 2 2/3, as we mentioned. There was 7 earned. He gave up 2 home runs, one to Longoria, as JD mentioned, one to Logan Morrison. There was an error that wasn't scored, an error by Greg Bird that in the end probably would have only saved Tanaka a run or two, but he didn't really look good. He wasn't sharp. The splitter and the slider hung in the zone more than he needs it to. If Tanaka's not pitching down in the zone, he can get banged up, and the Rays definitely showed that on Sunday.
Yeah. So you're discussing this Greg Bird error. What was the situation?
There was only 1 out at the time, so it wasn't like a huge deal. But I believe there was a runner on. I can't remember if the runner scored on it or if there was a runner on second. They put a new turf down at the Trop, and Bird slid for the ball. He had it with him as he comes trying to get up. The ball scoots out behind him. Castro kind of scoops the ball up, flips it to first, but it's a little late. And that guy would later score.
I got you.
So it could have been 2 outs at the time. Things changed, but Tanaka, regardless, he didn't have his best stuff.
Yeah,
and
of course.
they hammered him.
And after the game, the post game press conference, through his translator, Tanaka kept saying, he felt even after the fantastic spring that he had, amazing spring that he had, he said he was just a little too hyper. He was really excited for the season. Maybe that stems from these early season expectations for these Yankees. He just repeated over and over again through his translator that he was really hyped up for this season.
Yeah, I mean, he gave up more earned runs in the first inning than he did all spring.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about him. It's just from time to time you might see him get lit up like this if he doesn't have his best stuff and he's not keeping it down in the zone.
Yeah.
As we said, he's a ground ball pitcher. He keeps the ball low. He gets people to chase after the splitter. He's worked really hard on when to choose his spots and when to throw a fastball, and with the 2-seam now. So I'm not worried about him, but he had a great spring, 1 rough outing. He'll be fine going forward. I thought but he didn't have it from the start because Larry Rothschild took the dreaded walk to the mound after 15 pitches in the first inning. So it was from the start. He didn't have it.
Yeah, but Tanaka, I understand. Tanaka is also one of those guys, though. He can rectify that those errors that he's made in the first game within the next few starts. He's gonna, he's gonna bounce back. I mean, it doesn't look great for your Doritos bold prediction of the night our last episode, but he's obviously he's gonna come back. He's gonna look better. And throughout the season, he's gonna be maybe the only Yankee pitcher, barring a James Kaprielian call-up, that every Yankee fan is going to be extremely excited to when he takes the mound. Yeah,
and a quick note, it's his opt-out year, so, if he's obviously motivated to pitch well because he can opt out at the end of the year and get more money if he wants to. So, there's no lack of motivation or anything. He'll be fine. We're not worried at the Short Porch Podcast.
Oh, we're never worried at the Short Porch Podcast. Another thing, though, I'm going to redeem myself here for missing the Yankees-Rays game on Sunday, the opener. I will actually be attending the first Yankees-Rays home game when the Yankees play the Rays for the first time in the Bronx. I will be attending that game, I believe, next Wednesday or Thursday, whenever they start that series. So I got my partial season tickets on deck, everybody. Don't be fooled. I am a true Yankee fan. No worries.
All right, so one thing I want to touch on definitely was we talked in an earlier pod about maybe hitting Gary Sanchez second, and we were open to the idea, but at the time Didi Gregorius, was healthy. He was healthy at the time, and we kind of said we don't know where they would put Ellsbury or Gardner, whichever one they want to move out of the 2-hole, where he would hit. And I think with Didi getting hurt, it opened up a spot for Ellsbury to drop. So Ellsbury's in the 5-hole. And so the lineup went Gardner leading off, Sanchez hitting second, Greg Bird hitting third, Matt Holliday cleanup, Jacoby Ellsbury hitting fifth, Castro hitting sixth, Headley seventh, Judge eighth, and Ronald Torreyes was the Yankees' opening day starter, bringing up the rear. What are your thoughts on the lineup?
See, I wanted to talk about this, discuss this a little bit, because I'm perfectly fine. We talked about Gardner previously. We talked about him leading off. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's a spot he's been in before. We talked about Sanchez. I kind of said I kind of want to see him in the 3 spot, but I really don't mind him in the 2 spot. I think if he flip-flops back and forth in those 2 spots all year, that's a perfect placement for him. Unless they send him down to AAA after that awful performance. But in all seriousness, Bird in the 3 spot, if Sanchez in the 2 is perfect, it's fine. Holiday in the 4 is it's money. It's balls on. Ellsbury in the 5 is what I kind of wanted to discuss with you.
Yeah, definitely. I think a big thing behind that is that Girardi likes to keep like a lefty-righty mix.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to bring up.
And if you look at the top 7, because Headley's a switch hitter hitting 7th, so it literally switches every time depending on, the pitcher. And then Judge and Torreyes are both righties. But, yeah, Ellsbury in the 5-hole is a little strange. I kind of like him in the leadoff spot better than Gardner, actually, because, one, leadoff hitters are supposed to take pitches, and Gardner does that a lot. But I think sometimes he does it too often where he doesn't swing at good pitches. And Ellsbury's a little more aggressive in that sense. And also, Ellsbury is way more aggressive on the base paths. Gardner likes to wait around a while, which with Sanchez behind him, in the order, if, say, Ellsbury or Gardner gets a single in the leadoff spot, if they steal second, they're already in scoring position for Gary. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like Ellsbury in the 1-hole better than Gardner, but having Gardner in the 5-hole would be weird. So
how about this?
I understand.
How about this? According to your line of thinking, let's say you put Ellsbury back into the 1 spot where he batted last year, correct?
Right.
And you obviously, as you said, you don't want to put Gardner in the 5 spot. He doesn't. For all of Ellsbury's blunders, he does have a little bit of pop in his bat. Not an excessive amount, but he has enough pop where you can kind of stick him into that lower middle portion of that lineup. Gardner rather, not so much. So, let's say, as you said, we put Ellsbury into that 1 position. Where do you put Gardner now? Because do you kind of still want to position him somewhere where you get that lefty swing of things? So, in that case, you might move ahead. You would have to probably move a Headley up in the lineup because with the switch hitting ability, and move Gardner down toward more closer to the bottom.
Yeah, I think one way you could do it, you'd hit Headley 5th, which isn't sexy at all. It's probably, but Ellsbury in the 5-hole compared to Headley in the 5th hole isn't really like a difference. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms of what they bring, it's kind of So maybe put Headley in the 5, maybe move Judge up to 7, and then hit Gardner 8 or 9. And then you could still have, because the big thing, you want to split them up in terms of, the opening order, but having Gardner and Ellsbury bat back-to-back, a 9-1, wouldn't be so bad.
I wouldn't mind it, yeah.
But, Torreyes is the 9-hitter. There's no way around that.
You kind of can't move him from that spot as long as
you really can't.
Right.
You really can't. I think the 9-hole is penciled in with Cosma and Torreyes.
And what was the situation?
Whoever's starting. Go ahead.
And what was the situation on Sunday? How did I only have the stats here? Obviously, as I said, I didn't watch the game. But
right.
How did Ellsbury look in the 5 spot? I saw he went 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Did he? I don't know. How did he look in the 5 spot? Did he ever come up with a runner on or something of that nature?
He did not. There was no runners in scoring position, at least from my recollection. He saw 13 pitches. I think he got on somehow. It wasn't a walk. It might have been a sac. Or maybe a fielder's choice or something. I forget, but he was on base once. I mean, the middle of the order, Sanchez, Bird, and Holiday went 0 for 14.
Yeah.
0 for 13. So there weren't really runners on base for him to hit, and Gardner only had one hit. So the top four guys went a combined 1 for 17.
Yeah, when the meat of that lineup combines for something as like a donut, like you said, like it's going to be hard to win games.
Yeah, so he didn't really get the spot to show it, but the guys after him, Castro and Headley, each had 3 hits.
Right.
And Headley is a guy I wanted to focus on a little bit because, teams shift him a lot too, as we mentioned with Judge. And Headley was hitting left-handed, so the left side of the field was wide open. And, the first time it was kind of like an up-and-in pitch. He kind of just dribbled it the other way, beat the shift. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting in the 7th inning. I think there was only 1 out. And, the Yankees are down like 7-2 at this point. So they're kind of they're not out of the game, but they're kind of out of it. And Headley lays down a bunt, which I found interesting because it's opening day. Like, obviously you want to swing the bat. And it worked. He laid down a perfect bunt, beat the shift that way. So if he's doing that opening day down 7-2, I think that's something we have to look forward to going the rest of the way because that's kind of uncharacteristic game 1 down in that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I never pegged Chase Headley as not a team player. I always wants to benefit the squad. The only thing I've ever questioned is his raw talent, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, I didn't watch the game on Sunday, but if Headley looks good, then it's just another option to maybe put, as we talked about before, maybe push him up a little bit in the lineup when we need him.
Yeah, I mean, he beat the shift 3 times the other way. Yeah. So that was a good sign to see opening day. Castro came out hot, had 3 hits as well. And really, the Yankees had chances late in this game to really make it interesting. I mean, Sanchez came up in the 7th inning with 2-1, with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and he grounded out. And before that, it was 2-1, 1 out, and that's when Hicks pinch hit for Torreyes, and he got a base hit. So, they had chances, and even in the 9th inning, I think it might have been Sanchez came up again, and didn't send in any runs. But they definitely, they had the bottom of the order really put some hits together. And they had chances to put runs on the board and really make this interesting, but, the middle of the lineup really didn't produce, so they were kind of left for dead.
Well, we have another game to look forward to tonight. Did they come out with the lineup yet for tonight?
They did. They did. It's the same lineup tonight, so
okay.
No changes there. CC Sabathia's on the mound.
Beautiful.
And I don't know if that's good or not. I feel like the Rays always kill him. One thing briefly I want to touch on. This is more of a baseball issue, but it relates to the first game. In the first inning, Matt Holliday's Yankee debut, his first at bat, he hit an infield dribbler, and he beat it out. They called him out. They went to replay, and what do you know? Replay failed us yet again as a fan to get the call right. So, what's kind of your whole take on MLB's replay system?
We can go. I remember going back to. This is just a little anecdotal story. I remember going back to when the Mets were playing the Yankees. I believe the year was 2006, and instant replay, or 2007, around that time. And instant replay was just being introduced into baseball around that time period. I don't have the exact date. I remember Cliff Floyd, I believe, hit like a liner down the line, and it just skimmed off the foul pole, and they went to the replay. And I'm sorry, and instant replay hadn't been introduced yet. I'm sorry, and but obviously on television, the broadcast was replaying it over and over and over and over, and
replay was introduced in like 2008, so
it was like a year. It was like a year or so beforehand, and so I remember seeing it. The ball hit the foul pole, so it was supposed to be called a home run, and I don't think they called it a home run just because they didn't have the the rule to go back and
Right.
reverse it. I kind of, my line of thinking is, I take the replay for all the benefits that it has, and all of its faults. I kind of am forced to live with, and I'm fine with it, because I feel like in a world pre replay in the MLB, there was just too many things in such a slow game. Like baseball, I love the game, and it's so methodical. It's so slow that it's kind of, if an ump doesn't see something or doesn't call it the right way, I think it just benefits to go to the footage and just get the call right. The only downside I have to replays, like the only thing that I would say is a downside, is just the constant, like delaying of the game when a manager will come out and discuss with the ump whether whether we want to challenge it, like stuff of that nature.
Right.
So that kind of slows down the game a bit, which they're trying to rectify. But as we saw with the 1 foot in the batter's box at all times last year, that quickly got nixed. I don't know what the real solution is to that. But what would be your take on this topic?
Yeah, obviously replay is good for the game, but the main issue with replay right now is that when they go to the replay, they don't always get the call right. And it's kind of obvious to the broadcast and to the fans watching it. And there needs to be some way to fix this. I don't know if, I don't even know how to, go about this, but I don't know how they keep getting it wrong over and over again, because there was another replay the next inning or the inning after that, or later in the game, and the Yankees, I forget who it was, might have been Castro, he was called safe at first, and they replayed it, and he was probably out, but they kept it safe. So it is a slippery slope. Replay is good for the game. Every sport has it in some fashion, and it's necessary. But I think when you go to it, you need to get it right, and that's the main issue that needs to be fixed with replay.
Yeah, I would have to agree with your synopsis there.
Yeah, and with that being said, I think we should get into our first little segment here. Let's bring on the guest.
That's right. I have a very special guest on the line. He is a very well-respected broadcaster in the New York sports media world, and I'm gonna go get him on the line. Jared's gonna interview him, so enjoy this little interview. So Jared, take it away.
Yeah. All right. Hello here, and just have a few questions for you. First off.
Oh, okay.
First off, where do you see the Yankees finishing in the AL East this year?
All right, so Jared, you said your name was okay. You said your name was Jared.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Jared Peterman. Okay. So listen, the AL East, you have to look at the top two teams. Okay. You have to look at the Boston Red Sox. Okay. They just got what's his name, Mr. Sale. Mr. Sale. He's a good pitcher.
Yes.
Okay. I really like the Red Sox this year. Okay. I don't think it's the Yankees' year. I think they might be able to do it in 2019. It's not this year. In the AL East, I'm gonna say the third. I'm gonna say they're gonna get the third spot in the AL East this year. Okay. Here's the Mink Man. Wait, the Mink Man's not here. All right, back to Jared.
So third place finish, huh? So, do you think the Yankees would be better off with Yangervis Solarte than Chase Headley?
Listen, I don't even know who this Yangervis Solarte is. Okay. He sounds like a Dominican rice dish, all right? But what you have to understand here is me and Chase Headley, I've known him. I've been to a few benefits with him. He's a real good guy. I think he's from, the South. So, I have some family down there, even though I don't go there too often because, I live in New York. But, so I'm going to take Chase Headley. He's my guy. I'm going to take him over the Dominican rice dish that you were talking about. And although I really do enjoy some nice rice and beans from time to time, although I really don't like commuting into the city, it's really a hassle for me, okay?
All right, last question. What are your thoughts on Jason Giambi?
Well, there's two questions here to ask me, Jared. One, are you a fool? And two, get this guy off the line. Wait, I'm on the line? This isn't my show? Okay. All right, if you have to ask me about Jason Giambi, okay? I get this question a lot. I don't like it. I've been doing this for, 29 years. Who are you? What do you do for a living? But Jason Giambi, he was an okay player. I don't get the inside jokes here, but he was a good player for the Yankees. He had a very luscious mustache. Okay. Wait a second. I like Giambi. He was a good Yankee.
Thanks for your time. Is JD back yet?
Let me get him. Let me get him back here. I'm gonna go back to the green room and munch on my Diet Coke. All right, I'm back. How was that interview with our special guest broadcaster, Jared?
It was lovely for sure. So from now, do you just want to kind of look at the week ahead?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the Yanks obviously have 2 more games with the Rays this week in Tampa. And after that, they travel to Baltimore. And as we mentioned, they're going with a 4-man rotation. So, Sabathia will pitch tonight. Pineda will pitch the series finale in Tampa. And then Severino will kick off the series in Baltimore.
Right. So, as the whole focus has been on the rotation, especially that we've been talking about recently, that's kind of my focus going into these next few games in the beginning of the week. Kind of not so hyped about the fact that Tanaka, who had the fantastic spring that he did, came out and didn't look as stunning as we thought we'd see. Obviously, the Yankees have a nick for doing poorly on opening day, but going forward, as we said, we don't have a strong rotation really. Sabathia tonight rather. Pineda, Big Mike Pineda, as we like to call him.
Big Mike Pineda
is as streaky as they come when it comes to a starting pitcher. And then we have Severino, who, are we going to get the Severino of 20?
The same could be said. A very streaky pitcher.
Right. But,
so there's really no stability right now, and it's the beginning of the year, which is a little scary. But I think after Sunday's game, the bullpen looks in mid-season form. Obviously it's one game, so you can't get carried away with that. But they looked really good. I think that's going to be a strength of ours throughout the entire year. But I'm kind of focusing more on the lineup.
Yeah.
And because so much is focused on the pitching, and obviously we've noted time and time again that's our weak spot. But I would like to see Sanchez and Bird and even a Judge. Judge came out pretty well the other day, but have them kind of get going early, have this momentum from the spring carry over into the lineup, and just get back on track after the bad opening day.
So the question for you is, when does Gary Sanchez get demoted to AAA, and when do we get a go ahead?
Yeah, Sanchez is probably getting demoted after tonight's game. When he goes 0 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Greg Bird won't be too far off after he gives another 0 for 3, 0 for 4 effort.
Right.
Just clearing the path for Chris Carter.
Right. Yeah. I see. You know what? I think they should leave Greg Bird up. He's at least he has some potential. Maybe he'll just he'll come in when Chris Carter gets a little tired here and there. But Gary Sanchez, I think it's time to call it quits. Shut down that project.
Yeah, maybe we should dangle him in trade talks like Robbie Refsnyder and see what we can get back for him.
The Refsnyder talks were so tantalizing with every team that everyone was jumping at the bits to grab him. Exactly. But I don't think anyone will have any interest in Sanchez. 0 for 4 at bats and no home runs. What?
5 at bats actually.
5 at bats and no home runs.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Obviously, that's a little sarcasm from us, But one thing quickly on Sanchez, though, I think he went like 2 for 29 down the stretch of last year. And, I mean, we're not worried about him, but one thing I will mention is he chased some pitches on Sunday, and that's one thing to kind of watch going forward because, for, a guy like you who says he's going to hit around 300, he can't be chasing pitches like that throughout the year. And that's, with him being a rookie last year, teams are starting to adjust to him a little bit now, and that's just one thing he's just going to have to be a little more disciplined on. But, opening day, no worries, probably just some jitters.
Right, I'm still gonna stick by my my hypothesis that he will finish at least around 300 this year.
Right.
Yeah. So also going forward, I'm also very intrigued to see once the starters, the everyday starters, kind of had towards the end of this week, maybe the beginning of next week, have their their few games in. Girardi maybe goes to the bench players. Maybe Cosmo comes in to make a start or something of the sort. I'm very intrigued to see where a Chase Headley and Jacoby Ellsbury fall within that lineup when maybe there's two or three guys, maybe two guys that are usually everyday starters and not playing.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. Last year Girardi kind of moved Headley all over the place. I think he hit cleanup in some games, which made me cringe, but there will definitely be moving pieces, but, with the opening week or so with so many off days, that's probably a little far away yet, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Girardi could just go kind of nutty and just, go all Chicago Cubs style and have like as they put Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot, we can put like Matt Holliday leading off and then we could put Torreyes in the 4th spot. We should just say fuck all traditional baseball knowledge and just fuck up the entire lineup so that the opposing pitchers and the opposing managers just has no idea how to prepare a game plan for it. Just put Torreyes in the 4th spot. Fuck it, who cares? Put Ellsbury at 7 and make Gardner like the ball boy or something.
Yeah, I don't know if he has a binder for the lineup as he does the bullpen, but maybe we can invest in another trapper keeper for Joe, and he can get this lineup sorted out when the off days come for some regular starters.
Yeah, we should definitely get Joe Girardi his trapper keeper. But so we're gonna go into our next segment. We'll have this maybe once every few episodes or so. I'm going to give a list of 3 players. I'm not going to give their names, however, but there's going to be 3 players every couple episodes, and we're going to call this Guess That Yankee. My co-host, Mr. Jared Peterman, is an avid Yankee fan, as many of you listening are, and I would say, from my experience, Jared has had to deal with me, throwing really random Yankee names out there. Basically, our entire friendship, I have been a very random Yankee supporter. But I'm gonna give him 3 statistics, jersey numbers, roster years, all that, and we're gonna see maybe by the end of the season how many Jared can correctly guess. So, Guess That Yankee coming up right now with our first Yankee. Jared, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, you're going off the dome, correct?
I am. No prior research. Just give me the clues.
All right, here we go. This is our Yankees version of Clue. First Yankee was part of the 2005 roster. Oh, before I start, they may very well have been on multiple year rosters. I'm just giving you. I picked a random year. Picked a random player from that year, so they can be on the team for more than 1 year. Okay, so this Yankee was part of the 2005 roster. He wore number 12. He was a utility man, mostly played middle infield and some outfield, and the emergence of one Robinson Cano turned this older utility man into what he became, a utility man, not a everyday middle infielder.
And you said number 12, right?
Number 12, correct.
Dude, this this is a shot in the dark. I'm kind of drawing a blank on his last name, but I want to say the first name's like Andy. Is it like Andy like Phillips?
No, sir. It is not.
Yeah. Nah, was Andy Phillips like a first baseman or something?
I believe so. This man was a middle infielder. I'll give you 3 guesses each time because it's very difficult, unless like you just know off the top of your head.
He played outfield too, you said?
Yeah, played some outfield as well when they were in a pinch.
Maybe like how many? Do you know how many games he played?
I can give you how many games he played right now.
Yeah, that might help a little bit.
I know I don't know if it was the 2005 season, but he did 1 year with the Yankees. He did play a lot of games.
Would it be like a Tony Womack?
Hey! The first one of the year, Jared
Alrighty.
guesses it correctly. Tony Womack, the first. Guess That Yankee.
We're off to a hot start after an Andy Phillips reference out of nowhere.
Number 2. He was part of the 2006 roster. He wore number 41. He was a pitcher. He pitched 102 and a third innings, holding a 6-4 record. The obscure clue in this game of Yankees Clue. His last name is also the last name of a main character in a play.
All right. Was he a reliever or a starter? Did you mention that or no?
I believe I did.
I must have forgot it. You said number 41.
41.
Is it like a Ron Valone?
Nope.
Um,
Come on, Jared. His last name was the last name of a main character in a play. Let's see if you're a true thespian.
You know, my theater isn't that great, but I'm trying to think of jersey numbers. Was he heavier?
No.
No. What about like Sidney Ponson?
I always love a good Sidney Ponson reference, but sadly, it is not him.
I'm drawing a blank. I don't have it for you.
So are you giving up on the second one of the entire year?
I don't know.
The second Guess That Yankee is none other than former Yankees pitcher Scott Proctor.
Scott Proctor.
Last
Yeah,
name. Go ahead.
I probably should have gotten that.
Last name the same as a play named The Crucible. John Proctor. For all of you Crucible fans out there.
Okay. Yeah, that rings a bell now.
All right. Now on to number 3, the final one for today's episode. This Yankee was part of the 2012 roster. He wore uniform number 17. He appeared in 74 games for the Bronx Bombers. He was.
Is this Shelley Duncan?
This is not Shelley Duncan, but you know me very well at this point that I definitely.
I feel like Shelley Duncan wore 17. That's why.
You might very well be right, but
All right, keep going.
it's not Shelley Duncan. Okay, he was a utility player, mostly playing the infields.
Okay.
In
and how
the...
many? Go ahead.
Patience is a virtue. In the 2012 season, while appearing in 74 games, he hit 4, count them, 1, 2, 3, quattro, 4 home runs. The obscure fact for this Yankees player, Derek Jeter has openly stated that he gives great high fives.
Ooh. You said utility guy, right?
Correct.
2012. My first guess would be Eduardo Nunez, but
That would be incorrect.
all right, let me think here. Utility. What about like Jason Nix?
Ding, ding, ding. And Jared goes 2 for 3, batting. Jared is currently batting .333 for the season.
Whoa,
Not
whoa.
too shabby. Oh wait, no, you
Whoa.
got 2 for 3, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm batting 667.
Oh,
man.
all right. You're batting 667.
I'm almost to Chase Headley's level at 750.
Yeah. You're batting 667 on the season. That average is gonna swiftly drop, but
Oh, definitely.
but not terrible. Pretty good, Jared. You missed Scott Proctor, which is
Yeah,
for
and
shame you, but
going back, I really should have got Proctor and probably not gotten Jason Nix, but that's how things work.
So that's basically today's show. Today, April 4th, 2017. We kind of covered a little bit of everything. We covered the end of the spring training, beginning of the regular season. We had a fantastic interview. We uncovered our first segment of the season, of the regular season. We talked about the lineup, rotation. Is there anything else you want to add, Jared?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff that we covered in our first 2 episodes, but with regular season moving full speed ahead now, we'll get into different stuff, and we'll be watching the games basically every night, and just give you our observations. Keep coming up with some segments here and there, and just give you the analysis that Yankee fans need.
Right. So thank you for listening once again to the Short Porch Podcast. My name is JD Frieda. I am joined, as always, by the mustache to my goose gossage, Jared Peterman. And, I just want to thank who else but Ben Sound for our lovely intro song. Ben who? Ben what? Ben where? Ben how? Ben Gamble? No. Ben Sound. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, the tens and dozens of you for listening to the 3rd episode. Episode Ruth. We didn't even say that yet.
We didn't. We really dropped the ball on that, but yeah.
Dropped the ball on that one. But episode Ruth of the Short Porch Podcast. So as I said, thank you all for listening. You can follow Jared on Twitter at Peterman_24. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And you can follow myself, JD Frieda, on Twitter at AKA The Young Man. Thank you for listening. This podcast will be up on the WordPress very shortly. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week watching regular season Yankees baseball.